Okay, we are live. So I wanted to start off where we left off last week with working with building out the different levels here. And let me just go ahead and copy this real quick. Put it in here. Paste that in. Okay, so in front of us here we have this script that's running this portal that loads the async loading, and I'm just having some trouble using my sidecar screen with these other two screens and all the other stuff, so I had to disable that. So unfortunately I'm gonna have to use a faster computer to do all the stuff for the keying and the broadcasting and the multiple screens here. The MacBook just can't handle it, but what we can do is we can build this out. So I went ahead and I added all these levels into the build settings like we had here, and you can see they're all in line, and I just disabled them because I was going to test out how it builds properly. And one thing that I wanted to test that I enabled here was we enabled the occlusion culling here. So if I go ahead and play the screen, you'll see how it affects the camera. Essentially, any pixel that's in frame mode, it'll turn on the object, but the goal is to minimize the amount of objects running at once to help the GPU work. So you can see it loads everything as the camera turns there, and let's go ahead and toggle that on and off. And also it has two screens on at the same time right now, which is probably also why it's not working as well as it should. So if I turn this off, that should improve the oh, interesting. So I didn't change this over the new scene, so that's probably why it's doing that. So here we'll change this to, let's put that in its own scene. See what that does. Okay, so again we have the in terms of the occlusion here, you can see it's going to toggle on and off the different layers as we look at it, which is good because that's going to improve the performance on the mobile phone. So the very first thing I want to do is I want to test the performance and build this out, and then if that doesn't help, then we have to bring down the post-processing effects that are probably adding a lot of render aspects to the application itself. So, and I'll just take a quick look at that now just to see where it's at and see where we need to change it. So if I go to my core manager right here, and then I'll have to go back to my inspector. And the one thing that I don't know why it keeps on doing, it keeps on toggling on my layer here that I turn off. And I don't know if that's just because I reset the cache or what, but I usually turn off these two layers, and okay, so now we have our a portal effect here, and this is our teleporter, and this is our portal to the next level that we're going to set up to for the ads. So if I go in here like we had before, you can see this is what it's going to look like minus the background here. And so I want to make sure that I'm not using too much of this, but I'm using enough so that it gives some depth. So I'll toggle this back open here, and we'll go in our post-processing, and I think this is where you affect the occlusion here. So we have some bloom. So it says ambient occlusion only works with the camera rendering in deferred plus HDR. Now I thought this was set up to do that. Maybe it's just warning you. Let's just check that real quick. Okay, so the type of camera we're using here is forward. Okay, that's interesting. Oh, it messes that up. Yeah, it seems to be working fine, so I don't know what that's talking about, but unfortunately it has something to do with our render pipeline we set up. So I want to actually delete that. See if I can fix this here and just turn that back on. And let's try to bring this down a little bit to a radius that makes more sense for us. So let's use a lot less of that. And you'll notice this is we added, I was trying to add the reason this is happening here on the screen is because it still thinks that it has a, click on the project settings. So the render pipeline, then go into graphics here. It thinks that it's looking for a profile here. And I did make a profile for this, but then we were having issues with all the other textures. So worst case scenario, I'm gonna have to build in something else here, but we can just go ahead and select that. And as you can see, that's why it's doing that. So if I delete this, it should fix that. But you can see in the game view, it's not really working with us. So I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go radius, bring that down to 1, and we'll just go 1 and 1, just for the sake of making it perform better. 1, 1, and we'll bring this down to low. Okay, and for some reason it changes to forward because it was use graphic settings. I might have to delete that module, the plugin manager. But the render pipeline did kind of screw up the build for me. It made it has to have to go in and fix all the materials in Oasis, which is not what we want. We don't want that. So, okay, so it's definitely working better. Alright, so I think the ambient occlusion is working. Yeah, it's just kind of hard to see because it's not as profound as it was before. But I do think that's enough. If I turn it on and off, you can see the difference, though, that it makes. So it gives you a little bit of depth, a little bit of shadow. And I think that's enough for us. Anything more and it's going to be overwhelming. So what we'll do one more time is I'll just go ahead and disable this right here, and let's. Okay, so this should be in scene B, and we'll put this in scene A, and then we will disable scene B, and where was it? It was portal next level should be in B, right? So that's gonna be disabled. And one thing I was setting up was a teleport script, which is why we don't need Sully B anymore. Let's turn on Sully A here. And essentially on this we have a script we created, right, with the trigger, and this trigger is teleporting this guy back and forth between the islands. And so we just want to make sure that it's the same one, because I think last time what I had is I had 2 different guys on here and it wasn't working. So I need to go into here, I need to go down to the this one again, trigger, and also make sure, see that's not going to work because it thinks it's looking for this guy. So One thing I also have to do is when it teleports, I have to make sure it toggles on and off the different levels. So I believe that the triggers still do that. So we come here and click that. I may have to reset that up. So, because I may have deleted that. So we're going to use two different scripts for this. One is just to teleport and one is to toggle on and off the different variances. So I'll hide this, and I want to set this up real quick just so we don't forget. So where was that? I thought we had an on trigger enter here. Well, you know where it was? It was actually, if I minimize this stuff. Yeah, so this is the trigger event that we're going to copy this and use this to enable the switches here for us. So this is going to be changed to something else. I forgot this wasn't saved. So in the first scene here, we're going to go in here and we're going to paste this in. And let's get, yes, do you want to copy that? Yes, we do. It's game object requires a rigid body or a collider. And so I guess we don't have, oh, our collider's there. So maybe that means that we'll switch this. You can just drag this down here and that will fix that. So now we have the collider set, and it is a trigger because of the script on it. And so when you enter this, we're going to have it activate the area. And the one thing I need to make sure I do, because I'm using this, I actually have to change the name of this. So I need to make a new global event here. And I'm going to say teleport to teleport underscore portal. And we're also going to make a teleport main, right? And so these are both globals. And then instead of, let's make sure I'm on the right one. So I'm in A, so I want to go to the portal one on this one. So I'm going to say teleport portal. We'll delete the active state here. And then we'll change this one to make sure that it's that one. Okay, and so when it enters here, we're not going to have it do anything with Sully anymore because that's no longer relevant, but we do need to make sure it does this. So this is already saved as we want it to be, which is good, so we can just do that. And yeah, I don't want it to destroy though anymore because if they go back, they'll need that. So unfortunately, I have to figure out ways to clean it up. Otherwise, you're gonna have to create the object every single time. So for now, we'll just leave that as is and see what happens. And I'll copy this. That looks good, good, good. Teleport, teleport, teleport. Okay, and then on this one, back to the island. Trigger. Add new. You always have to add new SFN. For some reason, that's something it makes you do. Come on, baby, don't freeze on me. Come on, come on. Oh man, come on. Every time I try to do something, it freezes. Has to do with the broadcast. Okay, so Unity is not frozen, it's just looking for all these. So yeah, there we go. Yes, we do want to replace that, that's why it wasn't working. And we can delete that start state. This one's going to be teleport event. Wonder why that's not showing everything here. So usually when you have a global, it will show everything. And so this one has everything here. It might just be because it's not turned on here. So if I turn this on, oh, well, why is that not on? Okay, it's interesting. Alright, well, let's just go ahead and why is that not connected? It's weird. I don't want to make multiple events that overlap, but let's see. So this one works here. So let's rename this to Island, right, just so it's named Croakley. Okay, that's there. Yeah, it's weird how it doesn't let me do that. What's going on? Okay, so let's just recreate one. Teleport islands. Okay. Teleport island. Event not used by the state or any global transition. Interesting. Boom. And teleport island. Delete. Okay, so usually the global events will be seen across all the FSMs, but for some reason it's not showing up here. I don't know why it's not linking up, but let's just try it and see if it works. So we went ahead and we changed that. I don't know why. FSM, state, destroy. Okay, so that's turning on seed and scene A, and then I should probably change this to island and portal instead of A and B, just so we can recognize them better. So portal. And the reason we want to set this up this way is because in the every level after this will follow this format. So they all have kind of two places. And technically Sully B is not necessarily important for us. It's not really, man, we don't need him anymore. I'm concerned though that my it's gonna have funny things rendering when we go to use it. It's the water, I'll turn that off for now. Main canvas, that gets turned off. Alright. And of course we want to make sure this is turned off. And I'll zoom towards this. And we'll actually zoom from him. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this and see how it works. So again, like this, our mini-map's still working, all our textures seem to be working, which is what I care about, is make sure that none of that gets screwed up with the portal. So we'll walk over here, and we want two things to happen. We want we want the script to teleport our player here, and B, we want it to change the different environment that they're hanging out in. So let's see if that works. Okay, so it did work, but it looks like our guy got teleported. Now he's falling. See how he's falling down there? So what we have to do is we have to put a delay. We have to put a delay, and we also have to disable the script until you walk out of the trigger. So it's going to be a little bit trickier than I thought it would be. So let's go ahead and find our portal here, and let's think about how we're going to do this. This is our portal next level. So, like I said, on this trigger here, we have an FSM that's telling it to do something, and that is activating this. So what I want to do is actually want to see if that part works, and we'll disable. I can't disable this though, huh? Okay, teleport to island. Well, I know what we can do. We can actually make a game object here. Right, and then we can say this is going to be the spawn point. And let's figure out where that is. We'll put the arrow, and we'll actually have it higher up, so when they kind of fall in, right? So you want it to start there, and I can do the same exact thing for, I'll just copy and paste that, and then I'll come in here, and I will drag this down to our other point right here, and oops, what happened there? Just thinking. Sometimes I don't know if it freezes or just thinking. No, I broke it. Come on, baby. Come on, Unity, you can do it. Come on, what's going on here? Yeah, it doesn't. It's very frustrating when it freezes on you. Okay, so. Okay, so it's clearly something going on here. Alright, so that worked. There you go. That's why I just didn't know what to do there. So, again, we can come in here, I can add it in, and maybe it'll give us that same error. I might have to delete the prefab, it looks like. Okay, so we clearly have to unpack that prefab for that to work here. Okay, so cancel, that's why. Let's just go ahead and unpack that. If you ever see that error, that's what that means. Unpack that. Okay, so I also like to do this. Okay, so now that we can do that, we just zero this out, and that just zeroes it out on the point. And let's figure out where that is. Okay, and then so we'll do the same thing here. We'll have it like appear up here. And I'll just clean up a little bit for us. And so on here, on this trigger, we actually wanted to go, remember we don't want on this, we want on the opposite spawn point. So we want to make sure that it goes to this spawn point, and then on this trigger, you want it to go to this one, that one. So this actually might fix him from falling through, just because it will load faster than the gravity in the engine will take effect, hopefully. Fingers crossed. So let's try this again. Let's go back to our level here and save it just to be safe. Okay. Alright, so let's see what happens now. So it is running better, which is good. I mean, this is a computer versus an application, but I do think the occlusion culling is helping us here. Alright, so we zoom. So he's still having issues where he's falling. So you see he's still falling on us. Still falling. So I just want to see if I can maybe do it even a little bit higher than it was. So let's just bring it way up. Let's just try one and see if that fixes it. I also just noticed that one of our NPCs is not playing its animation. It's just moving around without animation, so I'll have to look into that. Okay, so it doesn't look like it's toggling on our level like we needed to. So let's figure out why that is. It's annoying I don't have a way to disable this. The way you have to do it really is you just have to say, I'm gonna have to create a different, let's just say this is teleport script, right? And then this will just drag on here, and that should fix that issue to where, edit. Copy, edit, paste. So it keeps the values there, and then we can just keep this off, and then we can destroy that here, remove component, and that should stop it from running that script. It's because it's not enabled, and then we want to use a means to enable it. mean, what I really should, I prefer using all the Playmaker stuff. So I might actually have Playmaker turn that script on instead of it running directly, being enabled. And I usually do that. I usually create a state, and then when it's ready for that state, you can toggle that on. So that way it first activates the level you need, and then after that it will do any other commands you tell it to. Alright, yeah, so you see how it's not animating? I don't know what that is. It's just kind of floating around. Alright, so okay, so he is still doing that, but why is it? Trigger. Okay, so sometimes what will happen is if you have recursive on, I think it's gonna what's going on here? Oh, did I? That's what I did wrong. I didn't add it to the right one here. So do the same thing here. We'll do portal script. Alright. And trigger, edit, copy, edit, paste as new. And we'll delete this, remove portal script, and so that should fix that issue there, hopefully. Okay. Yeah, it gets a little confusing when you have duplicate scripts that are talking back and forth. So we'll save that out. And try this one more time. Oh, it's funny how he ducks when that flies by, which is pretty awesome. I'll fix the animation next. Alright, so I'm also noticing that our colliders for some reason are messed up. This could happen if it has, no, there we go, it works. It's just wasn't touching the right thing. You gotta make sure you have the right layer on. If they're using a different layer, they're not gonna work. Okay, so I can tell you this time it's probably gonna work because alright, if you get on here, there we go. So that worked. And it was pretty instantaneous, which is good. And so now I think the quick fix here is we can so there's gonna be it's gonna be a little tricky here because we're gonna make sure that you turn on the script only when they exit the trigger, so that when you go back in the trigger it goes back. So a couple more steps just to make it work appropriately. But the good thing in it is that I think now that we have this in place, I can just take this, and I've done this a few times with some other stuff, and we can actually use a second state, which we're not using. and we can ditch the destroy, because again, we don't want to destroy it if we're going to re-enable it later, otherwise you're going to have to create it again. But what I can do is I can say, just call this teleport player, right? And I can say activate, and we'll just say this, turn off the recursive here, which is not important to us, and then we can activate this next. So I do think the one issue that's going to happen here is that it's disabling the trigger here. So we have to make another hierarchy for the trigger itself, which means the trigger actually has to sit outside of this for that to work. Let me think here. So you go in there, it's going to turn this off. And by turning it off, unfortunately, it means it's going to turn off this. Okay. And so we're going to make a new, it's going to be a little bit more complicated here now that I think about it. So we're just going to copy this name. Like that. Right, so we're gonna duplicate that name here, and we're just gonna say this is the scene objects, and this is gonna go in here. And the reason we have to do this is because we have to make sure it doesn't affect the other things we need to use still. So we have our scene objects here. We also need a trigger here. And now we can toggle this off, but not toggle these off until we need them. Okay, so that should fix that. And so it should really be environment. Objects. So I'm curious of how, if I'm going to copy this whole thing in, the only thing I don't want to do is recreate the other levels that are already placed, but I might have to do that for this. It's going to be, so we'll say portal script 74, this is a portal script 2 portal. It's kind of redundant, but at least you know what that is. Okay, it's going to be just the island portal trigger. Okay, and so let's think about what it's doing here. And I'll try to make this, copy this. So again, this is what's doing all the work here for us. So we know that we want this to, alright, good, so it actually keeps this, the right hierarchy, doesn't, so that's good. We just made a parent object there. And so you walk into this trigger, right? And so let's make sure it's the right trigger still. On trigger, enter. It is, because this is the trigger we're using here. Island portal trigger. It's going to teleport to the portal, which is this one, which is going to activate. It's going to deactivate this, but then it needs to activate the same exact thing on the secondary one here. Okay, so we have to do the same thing for this one. We have to create an empty. We have to make sure we bring it up here. Bring this in here. Actually, this is to come out that, so it's not in that scene. We'll copy this name here, and we'll just kind of completely environmental objects. I'll copy that as well, and I'll rename this to that. Okay, And again, naming here is really going to help you. It's really going to help you your sanity in terms of organization. And again, this will be island. Okay, so now we know the difference there between those two. If they're the same name, you wouldn't know which one is which. Okay, so, and again, I want to make sure that this portal is environment portal trigger, and this one has a. I'm sure we're gonna make this out here, and we have to make sure that this is out here. It seems complicated, but it's just reorganizing stuff so it doesn't. I kind of have everything turning on and off, and that's part of the issue there. So the next level one can stay in here though, because that is going to be something that is uniform with the scripts. So you can see though the issue now we're having is that because this is out of that environment, it's going to stay on, and so that's a little tweak. But let's just not worry about that this second. Let's just see if we can get this functioning first here. All right, so let's think this out. Alright, so you go in there, that turns on this one, and then the next state would be turn this on. Right. And it's going to be able to do that because it's using the trigger on the let's see here, I'm confusing myself. What's going on here? Island portal trigger. Alright, spawn point, teleport. I wonder if the issue is I may have to actually copy this. Copy. Let me think here. Let's just try it real quick and see what happens like that. I think it needs to have a trigger on this object for that to function, but maybe not. I forget what the script's doing. Okay, so we'll just see what it does here. You have your little demo thing here, you click the OK button. Oh, what do you know, now looks like only one of those dragonflies is not working. So that one isn't working, but the other one was fine. You can see this. Fun stuff. Never-ending fun. Trying to figure this out. Okay, so we come over here. And we walk on to here. Alright. Yeah, so it didn't fire that script to have them land there, and that's because it never had a chance to execute the trigger that we needed because why is that? So that's going to do that, and then it's going to turn this on, and this is going to spawn to, let's see, where's that? Where's the spawn point? Yeah, so that's the right spawn point, and it's the player. And the question is, then becomes trigger enter collider. Yeah, so I think we have to a simple fix, which I wanted to avoid was just to duplicate this, copy that, and edit, paste that as a new. And it should be the exact same placement, and it should happen very fast to where you're still in it. Okay, so turn that off. Oh, I forget, now that we're doing this, this stays on. So, okay, and then we'll just turn these off just so we can see if it lands where it needs to land here. We just want to see if that turns on and he moves over there, and if he falls through because he misses it, it's not a big deal. Okay, so oh, I didn't realize I'm off screen there. I am just okay, so got that. Got our little guy walking around. Okay, our mini-map's still working. Our quest is still working. Our crab is still working. Eventually, I'm going to have to fix the render pipeline. That's something I do want to use. I was making an effect all for a shader, a dissolve shader. And it did kind of screw up the build, which I'm not going to worry about. But okay, so toggle it on. And it worked. There you go. It worked. So now he's on this level. And the only thing that didn't happen was you didn't really see like him dissolve or anything. He just kind of moved somewhere else, and the camera caught up with him. So that's an issue. But the good thing is now we successfully am teleporting our player to a different area to where you can go to the next level. So that's pretty good. So let's go ahead and think about how we can make this transition a little bit easier for him. Now actually what I think is more important is I want to make sure that that when he goes there and that the other one's turned on, the trigger isn't enabled until he exits the it's kind of confusing, but on this level here, on the portal level, well, what I'm going to do is, before I do that, I'm just going to mirror this before I forget. So it's going to be portal script to island, right? Okay, and this is going to be portal. That's really weird, but that's technically correct. It's the portal trigger, and the island portal trigger. That's kind of confusing, but okay. Portal trigger, and I also like to make sure that everything's in the right order, so I don't lose track of that. Anchor. I haven't tried this on a smartphone, so I don't know if this is going to work. It's working on a computer, but the anchoring system with the AR might be kind of funky when we use it. I'm not sure. So I'm also going to bring this up because this is always active here. Alright, and that's enabled, not enabled, island, trigger and portal script. Okay, so I know it's a little bit confusing if you're trying to figure out what we're trying to accomplish here, but essentially we're creating a series of events where we toggle on different mesh. Then we move the player collider, or the player object to the other location. So the one thing I would like to do in between this is, well, I want to make sure he can go back, but the problem is if you turn on the other stuff, when he lands in this trigger, he's going to go straight back to the other side. So we have to make it disabled until you walk out of it, and then it can be enabled once he's outside of that trigger object. So to do that, we have to think about the trigger over here, right? This trigger, and we have to make sure that that doesn't get turned on if I turn this on here. So, and it actually doesn't look like it gets turned on, which is good. So, but we have to make sure this gets turned off when he also goes over here. So that's actually might be the quick fix for us. If I go here and then I say, so I'm just gonna copy this, and I'm gonna copy select action. Right, and we did add another collider there, so that's different, which I probably should name that something different. But then I can paste this after, and then here I can just make sure that this gets turned off, and then that gets turned on. So then hopefully that means when he's on the other side going back through, it won't affect him until he leaves them. And then so the way it works here is we have an on trigger enter, and we'll just also duplicate this, copy select actions, and then we'll copy paste actions after, and then we can do on trigger exit. Okay, so we have to create two new states now because we're going to have a separate state over here. And so I'll just copy this here, and it is a little bit confusing, but once we set it up, it'll make sense. And then, so in the events, we actually have to make sure we rename these. Oh, okay, this issue is not a global event here. So this is going to be it's going to be teleport portal enter. That's what it's going to be here. How do I rename this? There, guy. Oh, it's giving me some more event bullshit. Okay, so as an enter. Okay, and then we need to make a teleport portal exit. Okay, and since we're here, hopefully this will work. So teleport island exit, and then I think that should fix that. Enter, boom, and then make these all global again, and just make sure we save this out. Okay, so we have two global events listening here, and so clearly to make that not happen, we have to say teleport portal exit. And we have to make sure we delete the enter state here. And on this one, alright, let me just go ahead and clean this up a little bit. I'm confusing myself right now, which is why I'm going to take this slow. And on exit, it's going to activate the portal to the other side. No, it's going to activate the portal on the same side. So it's going to do the opposite of what this does. Island portal trigger. And then so here it's going to activate the island portal trigger. And we'll just turn this off for now. And we'll just say, let's go so I know it's an empty one. And I'll say not activated. I don't know if that's the correct naming convention based off what we're doing now. We may have to change that for sensibility here, but you can see we have 2 global listeners now. Or this is the listener, these are 2 trigger actions here. So when you trigger exit, oh, okay, the only thing you have to do is make sure that you change that there. And player tag, that's our player. And then so he goes in, it's gonna do this stuff, and then it's also deactivating the trigger on that side, so that, and the only reason it's doing this for if you go back. This is not even gonna matter, but if you go back into that, it's definitely going to be important that it's activated for us later. So a little bit of just preemptive cleanup for us in case they want to go back and forth. So then when you exit, so I do know it's the same trigger, which is good. Okay, because we know that trigger is. The only thing I'm thinking about, if this gets disabled, it's not going to be able to enable it or listen to it. So that may not work again. It's getting really confusing. Alright, so I may have to make one more hierarchy here. And just so this never gets toggled off and this has the trigger on it, and then it disables some parent below it. Because the big thing is we have to separate this unless we have 2 triggers. Well, let's just see what happens here. Yeah, I think it's gonna have to have another separate hierarchy layer for that to work. Alright. So that gets entered, that's that. I probably can just use the FSM for this, but I'm just using a separate script. So it's probably not the most efficient, but it allows for me to separate the 2 functions in case I want to change one and not affect the other. Alright, so again, I'm not sure if this is going to work here because I'm overwhelmed with what I just did here. I kind of changed up this overwhelm. So this is what? That is that. Okay. So when it exits this, yeah, it's not going to be able to do that because it's not going to have this FSM on it. It's going to be disabled. Oh man. So I'm thinking this FSM should go on the master one here. So maybe it's just a matter of just doing this. Yeah, but then the problem is there's no trigger on that one. Okay, so well, actually, what I can do is I know what I can do here. So instead of on teleport portal exit. It should be the teleport island exit. And then so then it's confusing because all these triggers are that's not right either, because teleport portal exit. I think it was right before teleport exit. So I'm thinking you just turn this off after this state here. Yeah, that's what we can do. So we're going to make another transition here. Add state. And we're going to take this and we move this down here. So then this should fire off before it gets to here. I think that would work. But it's maybe we'll have to wait a second. Let's just go ahead and lock this. And I'm just going to call this clean up because essentially it's cleaning up our tracks here. Alright. And so I don't know if it can do 2 globals before it finishes, but maybe what we'll do is we'll just put a quick wait state here. We'll just wait a second. Right, and then we'll say that's going to be a finish event. So this should be less than a second before it goes here. So we enter this, turns that off, turns this on. Then our guy gets moved over there. It waits a second, and then it decides to turn off that trigger over there. And it's not affecting this one right here. Oh wait, no, that's not the wrong. It's not affecting the one that we're going towards here. So it's not, and it's a little bit confusing because this spawn point is not active, but it's gonna be activated. So that actually might do it. It's a question of if it completes the state here before it jumps over there. If it doesn't, if it has to go through this state before it goes to the teleport exit, then it won't work. But it's interesting to see if it will. Alright, so we're in a ready state. And let me go ahead and just close my actions window here. And we are going to go see what happens. So technically by the other script moving our player, it's going to leave the trigger that's still active. And that should set off that. Okay, so we walk over here. And it goes in. What happened there? Did it work? I'm not sure what happened. Let's just pause it real quick. Something happened. So I've never seen this yellow one, but I think that means it never made it to that. Alright, so where's our guy now? He's over here. Alright, he's... Where's this? Okay. So, the question is, why is he not... Okay, so let's turn off this. Let's just drag this back in here and see if we can just get this to work, and then try it one step at a time. So that definitely works that way. And you can see that this oh, you know what? I wonder if it's because that actually might be it. Let me see here. Alright. So I think I have a solution to this here. So we need one more global. We'll call this clean up. And that's the clean up global. And do a little globals going on here. Clean that up. And this will actually go back into here. And the only other thing we want to do is we'll bring this back into here. We'll activate that, and we want to make sure we send an event now. So send event, and then we're going to say broadcast all, clean up. Okay, and so this should be, alright, so that goes back into there. And the reason why that's not, yeah, so this has to go here so that it can listen to that. So, portal clean up, send event. It's interesting. So, we might have to have two cleanup states, but let's just see if we can get this to work. So then we have island trigger, activate, trigger object. Okay, so we're just gonna go activate. There, and then our guy gets teleported there, and I want to go here, and so that's going to do is going to turn off our trigger, right, and we actually may not even need You know what? What if we just do this to that? Oh. And this gets turned off here. And then I think I'm complicating this. So problem is that trigger broadcast. Alright, so when it broadcasts, it means it's going to go here, and then it's going to say, alright, turn off this now. That doesn't matter as long as it executes that. This first, we're fine here. Alright, so this, and then it's going to go back in the start state. And then on exit, I don't know if that's necessary then. I'm not sure if this is necessary. Edit, move, do the transition. Okay, maybe it doesn't need two triggers. Maybe it can just use a send event, and then that can send to this one. That will turn that off. And so that's what we have to do is figure out how to turn it back on. Okay, we got this. And that. And we got this. Okay, so it goes there, falls off. Question is, did it disable our trigger or not? Looks like it did. Cool. And then for some reason he fell off. I think the only thing we have to change now is... Okay, so that did work. I didn't see it, but it worked there. And so... this needs to remove here, and this has to be turned on. So... this has to be named that, and then this has to be the portal... teleporter, and then we'll just put that in there. So we want that to toggle on with that, otherwise he's going to fall through. And that's that. Okay, spawn point. So it's gonna be really interesting doing this the opposite way. Alright, so here and scripts and so okay. So the one thing I know I have to change now is I gotta make sure it turns on this. So that's yeah, so I'm gonna have to change this at some point. So confused right now. So I think I fixed it, but I only fixed it one way. It's gonna have to do the same thing the other way, and I think that means I'm gonna have to change some stuff around. I don't think I need this extra state either. But I do want to see if that's working here, so. Alright, so we got our little Sully, he's gonna go there, we're gonna move him closer, so I'll have to do this every time. Where is it? What happened? Okay. Not really sure where he went. He's falling again. Definitely gonna have to copy this in. Otherwise it's gonna be way too hard to do it again. And let's see. Let's see here. I thought it was working though. It's an event, this is that, and that turns off our island trigger. Okay. This naming convention is confusing me too, because maybe this is not right. Okay, so before I go through there, I want to make sure that I'm gonna make sure I toggle this open and let's just see what we have here. Okay, so now that we have that, let's see what state happens. Okay. Oh, why is that turned off? Okay, that might be an issue. That might be why, because I turned that off. So again, that should be turned off, and it should only affect our environment right here. Yeah, so environment. So that's why it wasn't working. I had accidentally turned the whole thing off. Ooh. Ooh. Well. Hopefully this does it, and then I can work on the effects. I was going to do a dissolve shader on the player, but I was having issues with the render pipeline not affecting all the materials, and I just disabled it, which kind of sucks because I activated that. So I should be able to walk on here. There we go. He's now on this new thing. So that correctly worked. I can walk over here, and then so what I want to do now is when I let's just check and see our stuff here. So that trigger's off, and this trigger needs to be turned on, but it needs to be turned on when he exits the platform. So that means I'm going to have to create another one. Edit. Alright, so let's just go ahead and do this. Let me turn off the music for a second just so I can think straight here. And okay, so I think we have it. I just have to make sure that copy and edit, paste this, right? So we want to make sure we have the same exact. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong one. Oh, it's not. Okay. So edit, copy, edit, paste as new, and we're gonna borrow this FSM here because it has the same global states, and the only thing we're gonna do differently is I may just yeah, so you gotta be careful. You don't do stuff like that. What I want to do here is I want to take this, and usually you have to go like that and then paste a new one in. It's going to say the same thing. You want to, I don't know why this does it in a different window, but you got to be careful for that. And then you can go ahead and delete that state. And so this is just doing the exact same thing. So, and then on a trigger exit here, which is the trigger of this, what we want to do is we want it to, this is not going to longer matter to us. On that trigger exit, we want it to enable our portal trigger here. Okay. And then we can just delete that, and we can delete that. Transition. So this is a little mini global event. So, alright, so that actually should fix that issue there. And then I just have to mirror that exact same function on the way back to the other side. So hopefully that's not going to be too confusing to figure out. So we'll just try that one more time to see if that actually works correctly. And if we do, we'll fix that, and then we can focus on just some of the effects, and then we should be done with this level here. which would be nice. It'll be a long time coming. And also fix some of the other stuff going wrong here. Okay. So, a little bit confusing with all the globals we are adding in different places that are using the same calls, but I think we cleaned that up, and I think it will work appropriately without affecting the other stuff there. So the key thing is to name everything appropriately so that you don't mix up different states and different scripts that are doing similar things, and also keeping the hierarchies in the right place to where they function when needed but not in the way. Alright, so we go here, and walks on there. I don't know why I can't walk on it. It's over here. What happened? Something happened there. Let's just pause it real quick. That got turned on. That's our spawn point. This got turned on. And then it had issues there. But it shouldn't have been turned on until ready on trigger exits. Oh, you know what? I bet it has to do with the fact that we gotta put a delay on it. Feel bad for the person that has to try to copy this nonsense I'm creating here. Alright, so we'll do a wait state real quick. That, and then add state, bring this down, and add a wait here. And we'll just wait a second, finished, and then we'll drag this activate state down to this one, and then we'll say activate trigger here. And also, I don't like recursive. I don't like using that. This basically means it turns on everything that's a child object below it, and we don't necessarily want to do that here. So that, alright, so on trigger, wait. Well, actually, I think I might want to put this over here instead. What's it mean by that? Let's try that. We definitely don't want that to just happen, so it's definitely wrong. Let's go there. Let's just try this again. So nothing should be activated on this but the parent game object. until we command it to do that. Okay, so it seems to me, I don't think this is going to work though. I think it's still going to affect the trigger there. I'm just going to go back. Okay, so it's waiting. It should be a finished state instead, right? Huh. That's fine. What is this doing here? I think the problem is that this start on trigger enter. Let's see what that does. Just gonna delete all these. See if that. I think this is the issue. It's just basically it's activating this one, which is doing stuff. So that's probably why we may have to we're gonna fix that anyways. Because I keep on saying I want to do this, I'm just going to go ahead and take this guy, move him a little bit closer so I don't have to walk over there every single time. I'm just going to put him there. It gets stuck sometimes in the mesh. I think it's because it's on the outside of the boundaries or something. Okay, so that definitely fixed that. So now you see we're on the other side, which is good. And if we zoom out, our environment's gone, which is good. So now we have to think about, when you're here, how do you stop this from doing what it's trying to do here? So, oh yeah, we gotta fix this too, because that wait state was finished, and So I'm thinking actually that this needs to go here. This has to go finished. That has to go in there. And then that should be on exits. This we can ditch the global. So we'll just delete that. And we'll delete that. And then this is going to be a global event for us. There we go. Okay, that might actually do it. So we're just going to wait. Now we're just going to go ahead and remove this too here. And I'm hoping I can just duplicate all this stuff in the reverse order. Okay, so trigger events. Alright, so I'm gonna say this is gonna be a wait. Okay, it's gonna wait a second and then it's gonna send that. Or it's gonna go here and wait. And so when it gets here, when it exits this collider, which is where is that collider for us? When it exits that, it will send that. It'll turn this on, which will send us back. Okay, I think that will work. Okay, so we're seeing boundaries are acting up right here. I guess what that's problem is here. Yeah, so it was the boundaries. Stop it from happening. Alright. Oh, we're doing a little floaty thing here. Let's add it up. Okay. Looks like we're having issues getting off that. Okay. But the question is, does it reactivate our... Let's try that again. But before we do that, let's see if we can fix the little portal area here that we're having issues with. Alright, so portal scripts. So I'll just toggle this on real quick, and I'm going to go in here and I'm also going to make sure I turn the boundaries off for now. We'll have to figure that out later. And this is giving us issues here. So it doesn't like stepping off of that, which is weird because it should just work. We got our spawn point, which is up there, our point, which is there, and I don't know why that would do that here. Let's try one more time. I have to remember to keep these like this. So I'll probably do just a video just explain this once I get it all set up, because it's pretty confusing. But it works. It's using 3 different triggers that are all kind of doing like enabling each other one. And this has to do with the fact, otherwise you'd have a ping pong effect, or an infinite loop, I think I'd call it, which you don't want. Okay, I'm also going to make sure I remember to, for now, I'm going to adjust the boundaries in both these places. And I think the other one was toggled off already. That's the boundaries. If I turn it on, let's see. Yeah, so that toggles off. Okay. You're at, how long have we been streaming for? Close to 2 hours. So. Okay, so no more boundary issues here. And just go on here. Boom. He lands. And okay. So it looks like it works, which is cool. So it would be nice if the camera I almost should make a separate second camera that is closer to that place, and then it chases them. I don't know if that's going to work, but that might be the solution for us. So let's just pause this and then see what is active here. Okay, so we have this script is active, right? So that is something we can probably fix. We can get that turned off again, because we don't need that anymore. So that's something we should do as well. But the good thing is now this is active. So because we've left that, and when we walk through it, when we have the reverse effect, you can see it's just like it says I don't know what to do. It should bring us back to the other state, and then we can have infinite movement back and forth, but also cleaning up our tracks so it's not gonna screw anything up in the transition or the handover, or the handoff, I think you'd call it. So let's just make sure. So I think what I'll do is I'll add that to the exit state as well, just so I don't. So on this one, we can just copy select action, paste after, toggle that off, and then in this guy, which never actually gets turned off, or this never gets turned off, portal script to portal gets turned off. So at the end of all of this, everything on the first one should be off, in an off state. And there'll be no scripts just doing stuff until they're toggled on. Alright. So, our Sully boy here. Go in here. Do not agree. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. And goes on. Whoa. That was interesting, actually. I think I need to wait a second there. Exit. on. And that turns off. Let me just see if that's definitely the issue there. I have to do another wait state there. I'm definitely not going to want to do this the other levels, so I'm just going to copy all of these environments and then re-add all the mesh in and tweak it. It's way too complicated here. Nobody's going to be able to understand what the hell I'm doing setting up. They're working on it. Boom. Okay, so it's great how that does that. And let's see, on trigger exit. So it looks like it already gets activated when he falls, which isn't right. It should wait until he walks out of it. And so that's part of why that's happening there. So the easy solution would be to just put a delay on it, and the delay should fix that issue here. So I'll just do another wait state here. First off, I'll just drag this here, put finish state, finished, drag it in, and as usual, we'll do a wait. And just to be generous here, we'll do a 3-second wait here, because that should be plenty of time. And then we'll just say activate island portal script. Okay. So, this isn't actually working the way I thought it would. It's, I guess because when it moves over there, it already is out of the trigger event. It's just firing it off. But as long as we can get the mesh to the other side, it doesn't really matter how it works. It just has to work. It doesn't really matter to us. And I actually like the effect where it falls into the platform there. I think that's cool. And I think if you can do some kind of particle illusions or some kind of diffuse shader, okay, so that worked. And so the delay helped us because it takes him about a few minutes to fall, and I do need to clean the state up though because it's just stuck there, so we kind of wanted to go back to the start wait state again, and I don't think that matters though. It's just not, it may not be as efficient in terms of when all of them are functioning. It will take a lot of it could take a lot of processing power in real time, which wouldn't be good. But now that we are over here, again, let's do a quick check and see what we have operational in the running state. So now that we're on the second environment state here, we have this enabled, which is good. We have our trigger enabled, which is good, but I know that it's going to give us issues when we add scripts to it again. So, and this will be enabled when we replicate what we did in the other one. And on the other one, that's not enabled, and that's not enabled. So, okay. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to try to mirror these and see if I can get it to go back and forth for us, and then figure out how to delay that from firing. And again, it might just be as simple as just delaying the scripts from firing off, like I did here. And so I can copy this entire state. And again, this is why the naming convention isn't very important when you are setting these up. Otherwise, you can really confuse the dozens of different things that are doing a little bit different actions, but all really working to do the same thing together as a group. And so you'll see this one actually has an FSM on it already. This one doesn't, and that's because this was the return script. So we're going to just essentially do the same thing here, and you always have to make an FSM first, and it's going to be like, do you want to copy this over, blah blah blah, yes. And here, let's see what's happening. No collider, and that's because, again, remember we copied this over from our trigger. It doesn't really matter which one we copy over. We just got to make sure it's the same one on the right environment here. So I can just go, oh, okay, so one's a capsule and one's a, that's interesting. I did a box here, and then I did box there and a box there. So it looks like I copied over the box one on the last one. So I'll do the same thing here. I'll just copy that, copy, edit, paste, new. That cancels out our error here, but we need to make sure that we switch this to, and I don't know why the globals are not fucking showing up. It's pissing me off. So instead of a teleport portal, there's going to be teleport island exit, right? And then do that, and this one we'll just say island exit, and then hey, it's gonna be like, hey, there's no global event, so I'm gonna go here, global event, delete. Okay, and again, all I'm doing is mirroring everything I did there, so it should be, I shouldn't have to think about it. I should just pretty much switch everything around. So that should go to there instead. And I have a feeling that it's going to do a little ping pong action now, because there's something weird with that script firing off before it should. And so the solution there, that let's go ahead and crank this up to like 3. And I'm going to do the same thing for this one before I forget that I changed that to 3. Okay, so that goes there, that goes there, portal, and I'm just checking to make sure that I have the opposites on these. Okay, so the other thing we did was this portal trigger has that, so I'll copy this over, and that means that this trigger should also have that. So I'll paste that in, and again I'll come to this stupid fucking screen. Can't you just be on the normal screen? All right. Yes. Alright, do that, and then we don't need this no more. We'll fix the redundant name convention it created. And did it save the states here? So it did save the states here, but it also did something weird with that. So instead of trying to figure out why those aren't globals, I'm going to just create 2 new ones just for the sake of not screwing up what we already have fixed. So teleport, and you do want to make sure that you don't make more than you have to, because I can get all the variables that will that you'll create can get overwhelming. And again, I'm not sure why, if that's something I'm doing wrong in terms of why they're not globally accessible. because usually usually Playmaker's really good at knowing what is what. Okay, so this one again, we're gonna change that to this teleport island enter, and this one's gonna be teleport island enter instead. And this is not active, so we can delete that, and I'll delete that in the other one too, so I'm not like forgetting that. And delete there. Okay, so that goes to there, and then that will activate our where are we now? So remember, it should be opposites here. So that should be not that one, it should be that one. Alright. And then this one should be that one. And this one should be that one. And I'm really not thinking about this, so I hope I don't fuck it up. Teleport. Okay, so this would be teleport island exit. Teleport. Delete. Alright. So that's teleport island exit. Broadcast all, and it's going to broadcast that. It's going to hear it, and it's going to be like, alright, shit, forget if I actually made this the opposite now. So it's island portal exit, and that means that would be island portal trigger to nothing. So we can delete that, and we can delete this finish state here. And then I want to delete that, and we'll just go ahead and delete that, and we'll delete this finish state here. Okay, so I don't know if that was what I wanted to do, but I'm pretty sure I did mirror everything there, and I'm sure there's something that isn't going to work here, but let's just try it and see what happens before we assume it's not going to work. But sometimes you get lucky. I'm feeling lucky. Alright. Okay, so our little guys over here. I even messed with the mini map. Yeah, I gotta fix that. Boom. Yeah, so you see that falling through it disabled it again. So that is an issue here. You take a break, and we'll come back to this.